Hello, thank you for your time today to present the birther case. We don't have much time, I'll get straight to the point. My name is Rudy Davis. I was born in Dallas. The most important thing about me is that I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I believe the Bible. God has put me in a particular position throughout the last 4.5, 5 years to be very connected to the birther situation. I myself have been a birther since May of 2010. There's 3 points that I would like to drive home today. But before I get started, I want to say that I believe the very survival of our country is dependent upon this issue, and it's specifically what members of Congress do with this issue. Not lawyers that are subject matter experts in the field of law, not law enforcement officials like Sheriff Joe Arpaio. The lawyers would be Phil Berg and Orly Tates. The law enforcement officials would be Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Richard Mack, people like them. And then we have subject matter experts in the constitutional field like Mario Apuzzo, who's also an attorney, Commander Kirchner, and we have subject matter experts like Jerome Corsi. We have various people in the spiritual or the pastoral field as well, like Pastor James David Manning, Pastor Wiley Drake, Pastor Stefan Broden, and Pastor Carl Gallups, and I put those people's pictures on the front of your binder. We have Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin. He's the third from the upper left. I went to his court-martial, and he's a lieutenant colonel. He was a lieutenant colonel in the military, and he got sent to Fort Leavenworth Prison, sentenced to Fort Leavenworth Prison for 6 months. But I said I want to get right to the point. There's 3 points that I would like for you to remember today. One of them is Obama is not a natural-born citizen because his father was not an American citizen at the time of his birth, nor was he ever an American citizen throughout the course of his life. That statement is a fact, and the documentation that I provided you in the binder, which takes about 2 hours to go through, and it's my prayer that you will spend some time reading it, will prove it to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I want to go through a little bit about that today in the 10 minutes that I have. The second statement is Obama's birth certificate is a proven forgery. And I've got a sheriff's department kit that's right hot off the presses that has multiple documents and multiple videos that proves that. So you just put it in the computer and you run autoplay, and it'll come up with a list of documents, a list of videos, contact information. You'll notice there's a directory and an executive summary in the front of your binder. My phone number is in that if you need to call me, as well as the phone number of Mike Volin. And you can even reach out to the phone number of Sheriff Arpaio and Mike Zullo as well. Mike Zullo is in charge of the cold case posse that's heading up the birth certificate as a forgery. But what I'm about to say, I believe with every fiber of my being. There's no way that you can spend the 2 hours required to read through the articles about natural-born citizen, spend the time and go through the videos and the documents that have been compiled by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and not come to the conclusion that statements 1 and 2 are absolute fact. That Obama is not a natural-born citizen, and Obama has put out a forged birth certificate. The third aspect of the birther movement that you'll hear from time to time is that Obama was born in Kenya. And it's not just people saying that Obama was born in Kenya. I've included a flyer in the front of your binder that Obama used a literary biography since 1991 indicating his own self that he was born in Kenya. Now, Andrew Breitbart, who released that, suspiciously died of a heart attack at the exact same time he was releasing this information, and the coroner of Andrew Breitbart was found dead in his Hollywood home of arsenic poisoning. Now, I'm not going to talk about that today, but I just want you to be aware of it to keep that in mind. But let's go back to my first 2 statements, and I want you to remember 3 statements today. If you don't remember anything else, I please ask that you remember these 3 statements. Obama's not a natural-born citizen because his father is not a natural-born citizen at the time of his birth, nor ever became a legal American citizen. Obama's put out a proven birth certificate, and it is not the responsibility of lawyers like Orly Tates and Phil Berg. It is not the responsibility of law enforcement officials like Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Sheriff Richard Mack, and it is not the responsibility of subject matter experts like Jerome Corsi, Commander Kirshner, Mario Puzo. It's not their responsibility. The Constitution of the United States says that it's the responsibility of Congress, and that's why it's so important that you're allowing me this time today. I've given you also copies of the Constitution in each of the binders, and they're marked in 3 specific places. If you'll notice in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, that it specifically calls out the law of nations. The law of nations is specifically called out. This is the law of nations written by Emmer de Vattel. It was consulted by our founders and our framers when they wrote the Constitution, and I'll prove that to you in just a bit. But I wanted to call out that the United States Constitution that you hold in your hands specifically mentions by name in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, the law of nations. Okay, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5, I would like to read it to you. I know you've heard it before, but let me read it again. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of the Constitution shall be eligible to the office of President. Okay, they used a specific phrase, natural-born citizen. You've heard in the media that that's not well-defined. That's not true. It is well-defined. And the articles that are in this binder well define that term. There's another place that's marked in your Constitution called Amendment 20, Section 3, and I would like to read to you this section. And the Congress may by law provide for the case when neither the President-elect nor the Vice President shall have qualified. See, even though you've got many people coming public regarding this issue, it's not their responsibility, it's the Congress's responsibility. I believe this issue is incredibly important to the survival of our country. This is the law of nations. Let's read what the law of nations says about the word natural-born citizen. I'm going to read from chapter 19, section 212. The natives or natural-born citizens are those born in a country, born on U.S. soil, of parents who are citizens. It goes on to even explicitly say that the child receives the citizenship inheritance from the father. But I wanted you to specifically call out that sentence, that you have to be born on U.S. soil of parents, plural, and Obama's father was not an American citizen, nor did he ever become a citizen. I've also marked a page in your binder where it's marked with a yellow sticky note, and Benjamin Franklin specifically says this about the law of nations, in case you were wondering, how do we know that the law of nations was used? So not only is it called out by name in the Constitution that you hold in your hands and that we use today, but here's what Benjamin Franklin said about it. The law of nations came to us in good season when the circumstances of a rising state make it necessary to frequently consult the law of nations. Benjamin Franklin also said, the law of nations has continually been in the hands of the members of our Congress now sitting. At the back of your binder is a letter from John Jay to George Washington. And let me read you this. Permit me to hint whether it would not be wise and seasonable to provide a strong check to the admission of foreigners into the administration of our national government, and to declare expressly that the Commander-in-Chief of the American Army shall not be given to nor devolved on any but a natural-born citizen. John Jay wrote to George Washington and indicated that it was incredibly important that the Commander-in-Chief only be given to a natural-born citizen. That letter was written at the time of the adoption of our Constitution, and that phrase, natural-born citizen, did make it into Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5. If you spend the time, I would say about 2 hours, to go through the red binder, there's no doubt that you'll come to the same conclusion that I have. Remember there's 3 points. Obama's not a natural-born citizen because his father was never an American citizen. The second point is that Obama's put out a forged birth certificate. Put this DVD in your computer and bring up autoplay, and it'll provide you videos and documents that if you spend the time to go through, there's no doubt that you'll come to the conclusion that Obama's birth certificate is a proven forgery. There's one last point, and there's one last point that I would like to share in closing, and I appreciate you letting me go over a minute. This issue isn't about my credibility. It's not about how well I presented the information. I did the best that I could in the 10 minutes that you've given me, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity. This same information was presented in a much more professional way, and I'm sure much more detail, to Allen West while he was a congressman. Allen West, at the time this was presented, said something to the effect of, well, I don't disagree with the information, but I can't come out publicly because it might hurt my next congressional run. Okay, that is a cowardly statement, if you'll permit me to be so bold in saying so. See, the issue is not whether these two statements are true, that Obama's not a natural-born citizen and Obama's put out a forged birth certificate. I know that they're true. If you'll permit me to be so bold in saying so, the issue is whether we can find a United States congressman that cares whether those two statements are true and is bold enough to come out against overwhelming ridicule to say the truth, to save the United States of America and to restore us back on the righteous path. That is the issue. The issue is not whether the statements are true. A great deal of people know that they're true, and if you go through the information that I've given you in this binder and that DVD and the 3 books that I'll leave you with you as well, one of these books was written by a man who was sentenced to 6 months in Fort Leavenworth prison and who sacrificed his career and his reputation, Terry Lakin, who I consider a friend. Again, I would just offer for your consideration, it's my understanding the congressman claims to be a Christian man. We need a bold Christian man who will stand up for the truth and put us back on the righteous path. You may get to a point as you consider this information that you say, what about the ramifications to the United States? This is very serious. The ramifications of not coming out and standing up for the truth are far, far worse than coming out and correcting it now. And I beg and I plead of you to please go through this information. I'll leave it all with you today. And please pray if you are a Christian man or woman, and ask your Creator what He would want you to do in this situation. Thank you for your time today, and I do appreciate it.